The Colorado Water Conservation Board published the water plan in 2015, and there is a huge supply gap that's predicted by the year 2050 for the state of Colorado. And so water reuse is seen as a mitigation strategy for that supply gap.
It's not clear that we'll always have water, and we cannot live without water, and we want to live with high quality water. So we better be prepared as early as possible.
Oftentimes, people are more concerned about where the water is coming from than the quality itself. So our regulatory agency, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, has embarked on a stakeholder engaged process to develop additional regulations and requirements for direct potable reuse to ensure even a higher level of safety to allay some of those concerns that folks might have about where the water has come from.
Water should be judged by its quality, not its history. And so the purity of the water is going to be the same regardless of where it comes from. It's safe to drink because of the processes we do to it. So water might start out in a deep well, it might start out in a reservoir and stream as snowmelt, or it might start out as a recycle process. But the point is that we're regulating it in such a way that it'll be treated the same and end up with the same product.
Really, whether you recognize it or not, every drop of water that falls in the state of Colorado is accounted for. We've had leaders and water planners thinking really far out in the future. This concept of using recycled water and making it potable dates all the way back to before 1996 in our sustainable water plan. We have 9 different infrastructure systems that collect and transmit water to our community from various parts of the state. Probably 60 to 70% of our water are on the other side of the Continental Divide. And so much of that water, the lion's share, travels over 100 miles to get to our community. But water that's non-native to our basin here in Colorado Springs, which is the Arkansas River Basin, can be reused to what they call extinction, which means we can use it over and over and over again until it no longer exists. So that water, because we're taking it from another part of the state, we want to be good stewards of that water. We want to make the most of it, and we want to reuse it as many times as we can. And that's just part of being a good steward of that water that's coming from a different part of the state. We're one of the largest cities in the state, and it's the only large city that doesn't reside on a river or a major stream. And so our water situation here is even a little bit more complicated than many in the state. And so for that reason, we need to be really conscientious about how we're using water, and we need to be looking really far ahead to ensure that we have a vibrant and sustainable community based on a sustainable water supply. So in terms of our community, this trailer provides enormous benefits in understanding how these treatment technologies apply specifically to our recycled water and how we can most efficiently get that recycled water to drinking water quality. So this is going to provide us an enormous data set from which to work with that would play into how we would plan for and in the future maybe design and implement such a system.
Colorado Springs, maybe even more than any other communities that I know, really care about water supplies for the future. Very, very committed to bring the public as early as possible to know what they are doing, what they are planning, and how they will protect water resources for the future.
It will never make up all the water supply. It will just be a portion of it. But it's a way that we can add a tool to the tool belt, if you will, to increase our efficiency and effectiveness in reusing our reusable water supplies.
There's definitely interest in the water community between different providers about doing advanced water reuse like we're doing here and demonstrating here. And you see that as a kind of a natural function of the tighter and tighter constraints that we have on our available water supplies and the need and the interest throughout the community, throughout the state, to be more efficient with the water that we do already have.
It's really going to be about being able to have a diverse supply that's resilient, that can be utilized to its fullest extent in circumstances as we see changes in our supplies.
The state water plan predicts that the population of Colorado will double by the year 2050. If those predictions hold, Coloradans will think about water a lot more in the future than they do today. And so I do envision a future where folks will consider taking that 5-minute shower instead of a 20-minute shower, and they will think about the waste and the responsible use of water. And in that context, Coloradans will certainly, I envision, embrace water reuse as a responsible use of water, which is going to be important for our state.